Hi guys, welcome back to your professional diploma in fitness and weight loss, and we're into practical 3 of module 2, which is programming the principles of training. Now before we get started, I just want to do a quick sound check as usual, so please type in yes if you can hear me, and if you can't, hopefully you are reading the screen and you're typing no, so the support staff can help anyone who's have any audio or visual issues. So let's continue guys, and let's talk about what we're going to cover in today's practical lesson. The first thing we're going to look at is adapting exercise to injuries, because I know there are a number of common injuries and medical conditions that people have before they start exercising. So we're going to look at them. We're going to look at joint problems, back problems, we're going to look at some common medical conditions and how we can actually adapt our exercise programming to suit our current health and wellness. And obviously as we get fitter, as we get stronger, we can further adapt that. And then what we're going to cover guys is exercise programming specifically for losing fat and toning up, okay? Because this is probably the most common reason people are looking to start exercise. It's to lose weight, lose fat, to tone up, and then obviously to improve their energy levels as well. So we're going to look at what an exercise program will look like in a few different ways for losing fat and toning up. Because we can use a number of different methods, whether it be straight sets with separate cardio days, or whether it be a more mixed circuit style exercise programming. So guys, I hope you're looking forward to it. Let's get stuck in. Now, how do I adapt workouts to my injuries? Okay, so there's some very common injuries, so we're going to look at how to adapt a few common injuries and medical conditions. So we know how to take normal programming and then adapt it. Now, we're really just going to take that overload and fit programming and adapt it. We're not really going to change it, but we may have to adapt it depending on medical advice, okay? So when it comes to back injuries, generally it's low impact, okay? So we're not going to do jumping or overloading of exercises, and we're going to make sure we're doing it in perfect form, okay? So unlike if you're not suffering from any back injuries, where you will be able to do maybe anaerobic exercises like burpees and squat jumps and things like that, you'll probably have to avoid it with back injuries, okay? With kind of posture weaknesses, you have to be patient building strength back into your back, okay? So even if it's just a postural issue and it's causing you pain, this is what I mean by we need to know what our starting point is. We're not going to start programming 60 kilo squats if every time we're holding the bar we're getting a massive pain in the middle of our back. So you have to be patient building strength, and you have to be very aware that you're comfortable with the movements, okay? If you're suffering from any bulging or prolapse discs, you have to follow your doctor's and physio's advice, okay? No personal trainer, unless they're already also a physio and doctor, can give you your programming. We have to follow, like if I have someone with bulging and prolapse discs, I have to follow their doctor's advice when it comes to programming. Now once I know their doctor's and physio's advice, now I can alter the programming. But I'm not going to just start programming assuming I know everything, because they might have specific advice depending on MRIs they've had done, how bad the bulge is, how bad it's causing sciatica, and so on. So if you're suffering from back injuries, always follow your doctor's and physio's advice first, then pass it on to your personal trainer, and then they will sort that out for you. Limitations, you have to know your limitations and what you can do before you program your own training or anyone else's training. Alright, so if someone simply can't squat because it's too dangerous because they have 3 bulging discs, then they're not going to be squatting. Alright, or if they can't squat below parallel, below knee level, that's fine, and we need to know that. But then you program accordingly. So you have to know your limitations when it comes to back injuries, okay? And then safety guys, don't ever take chances. If you're not sure, don't do it. If you're not sure, do not do it. And it's as simple as that. Alright? With joint injuries, it's quite similar, guys. We're also going to do low impact, so no jumping, no overloading. Every exercise in perfect form pretty much goes for every workout we ever do. When it comes to exercise in perfect form, ACL issues, which is your anterior cruciate ligament, it's the one in the front of the knee here. Very, very common issues with it. So with the lower body, your range of motion and your loading will be limited. Now, depending if you're recovered, depending if it's a tear, depending if you're getting a full-on keyhole surgery and you're going to be out for 9 or 10 weeks, we have to know what you can do, what your limitations are. Okay? Any diagnosed joint problems, again, must follow doctors and physio's advice. Do you have degenerative joint issues? Do you have torn meniscus? Do you have ACL problems? Do you have ligament issues? Again, you have to follow your doctor's physio's advice. You have to know your own limitations. What are you allowed to do? What are you not allowed to do? If you're programming for clients, what are they allowed to do? What are they not allowed to do? You are not a doctor. You are not a doctor. Okay? When you become a qualified trainer, you are just qualified to train people essentially that are healthy. Anyone that is not will have a guideline from their medical physician, and then you alter according to the guideline. You are not a doctor, and you cannot program as a physio or as a doctor. Alright? And then safety, guys, for yourself, for clients, never ever take chances. Again, just like the first one, don't take chances. Alright? If you're not sure about it, don't do it. Yeah, 100% comfortable with everything you're doing. And then medical conditions, guys. So there's a number of different medical conditions that we're going to come across when it comes to training yourself or training people. You're following your doctor's advice, you're following your specialist's advice. You have to know your limitations beforehand. If I don't know someone's limitations beforehand, I get this all the time, and people email me and they're like, listen, I have 3 bulging discs, what's the best way to work out? Listen, I have a torn ACL, what's the best way to work out? Listen, I have lupus, what's the best way to work out? Until I know your medical advice on exercise, I cannot program your exercise. I'm only a personal trainer, guys. Okay? Now, I'm a very highly qualified personal trainer. I'm also a strength and conditioning coach. But again, I'm qualified essentially to program for people who have medical advice and who are healthy. I cannot program for you if you have a medical issue and I have no guideline. I need medical guidelines. Alright? Heart problems will generally be limited with intensity, and your doctor will specifically tell you either on how you're feeling or based on a maximum heart rate what you're allowed to work at. Okay? Autoimmune diseases like lupus, like Crohn's disease, again, will probably be limited in intensity and the frequency of your training, and you will have to know when you can and cannot train. I have trained people with Crohn's, I have trained people with lupus, and they do very well with exercise, and it really helps improve and stop some of the symptoms of these diseases. But again, every single time it flares up on them, they follow their doctor's advice of not training. Alright? Of not training, and they can only come back to it when they're ready. When it comes to diabetes, guys, you need to monitor your blood sugar. Are you type 1? Are you type 2? And again, are you following medical advice? Okay? And all other medical problems, it's very, very, very simple. You should have specific medical advice about your exercise. If you do not have specific medical advice about how to exercise, you have to ask your doctor, and you have to find specific medical advice for your exercise. Because if you're not 100% healthy and you're suffering from a joint issue, a back issue, or a medical condition, without medical guidelines, there is no personal trainer in the world that can give you a program. Alright? We're bound by following medical guidelines. Okay? I essentially am qualified to give advice, nutritional and training advice to healthy people and people who have specific conditions with medical guidelines. If you show up with a condition, if you know medical guideline can't do anything, you know? Okay, guys. So that's a little bit about medical conditions, that's a little bit about injuries, that's a little bit about injury prevention before we go into programming. Now let's talk about programming properly. Now let's start the conversation about programming exercise. Alright? How about that? Let's do that. So, how do we actually program for results, guys? How do we actually program for results? What do you think? How are we going to program for results? I've asked this twice in 2 lessons, so hopefully you get it this time. What is the number one thing that we need to know in our principles of training to program exercise for results? What do you think, guys? We got it right last day. Okay, very good. Peter saying overload and fit programming. Exactly, guys. We need to know our overload and fit programming, and we also need to know all of our principles of training. Okay? We need to know all our principles of training. We need to know all our health components of fitness, and that's how we program. So let's take a look. The first thing we need to know, obviously, is our overload and fit programming. Okay? This is going to help us program the initial exercise program, overload and fit principle. Okay? So, depending on the result we want, we have to know the frequency we're going to train, what the intensity is, how long we're training for, and what type of training. Okay? As I always say, to improve your fitness level, you must work and improve your components of fitness against a load greater than normal. This means working past your normal capacity. We do this through fit programming. All right? That's the third lesson in a row I've brought this up, so you should know now how important this principle is. This principle allows you to program every single exercise program you will ever have in your entire life. What is the second most important thing we need to know? We need to know overload and fit principle, and we need to know our components of fitness. Which components of fitness are we using overload and fit programming to program? So we need to know our cardiovascular endurance, high intensity interval training, muscular strength, muscular hypertrophy, muscular endurance, and flexibility. So they are all our components of fitness. So if we correctly use our overload and our fit principle against our components of fitness, we can now program for specific results. We can now program for specific results. Now, let's start tying all these together. All right? I'm going to ask you this question now. All right? What components of fitness do we need to train to get fat loss and toning up? The most common question, or the most common reason most people come into a gym for the first time or go into a personal trainer is they want to lose weight and tone up. Lose weight, tone up, and feel better. I say 80 to 90% of the time when I ask someone, why do you want to start training? They say, I want to lose weight and tone up. Lose fat and tone up. I want to get in better shape and tone up. That's the majority of the time. So what components of fitness do we need to train through overload and fit programming to successfully get fat loss and toning up? What do you think, guys? I'll give you 5 or 10 seconds to answer this one for me. All right? What do you think? So straight away, a couple people saying muscular strength, muscular endurance, muscular hypertrophy. There's a couple here, right? There's a couple here. I suppose none of you are particularly wrong, because we can use all different components of fitness, but I'm looking for specific. Hypertrophy and HIIT, very good. Okay, so very good. So someone was paying attention in practical lesson 2, because I put it on the end of that lesson. Exactly. Hypertrophy, HIIT. A lot of people saying hypertrophy and HIIT now. Hypertrophy and cardiovascular endurance. We can as well. Yes, we can. Very good. That's very good. Yeah, and we can do a combination, guys. We can do a combination. So what do we need to train? Well, there is a number of those components of fitness we can train to get those results. It's not one answer, but there is kind of 4 very important. The first one is muscular hypertrophy. Now, we vitally need strength training in fat loss. Okay, it's just a must. Okay, we have to build muscle and improve our metabolism again if we're going to lose fat. We can't lose fat without building muscle. You're probably going, what? Are you crazy? Trust me, you're not going to lose fat without building muscle. All right? Because if we're going to lose fat, we also need to shape the body. Okay? So muscular hypertrophy is the most efficient way of building muscle, and we can mix this with either HIIT or muscular endurance to also lose fat, along with very good nutrition. The second one is high intensive interval training, guys. High intensive interval training and muscular hypertrophy combined is probably the best 2 components to train for the fastest fat loss and, say, toning up out of any other combination of components. Okay? We can do it through muscular strength and cardiovascular endurance. We actually can. That's no problem. But this would be the optimal 2 together. Okay? We'll also throw in some cardiovascular endurance just for benefit to our heart and lungs, but also if we're not able to do high intensive interval training, we can do muscular hypertrophy and cardiovascular endurance as a combination. And then very, very importantly, we need to do flexibility. So flexibility will always be involved in any training we do for injury prevention, like we talked about in that first section of today's lesson. So we might use these different components in different programming. All right. So let's talk about that first one. That in Practical 2, I gave you an example, fat loss, and we did muscular hypertrophy and HIIT training. And we did a 3-day program where people were working for 3 days, and then 4 days they were essentially not training except for maybe a little bit of mobility. Now, what form of training do you think that was, guys? Was that straight sets? Was that couplets? Was that drop sets? Was that supersets? Was it circuits? What do you think? What do you think, guys? If I'm talking about hypertrophy and HIIT training. So, straight sets and HIIT. Very good. Couple people, Peter, Pauline, both saying straight sets and HIIT. Yeah. So remember our straight sets is one exercise. So if we remember from the other day, we do our one exercise, so we'll just play this. So say we're doing bench press. We do our one exercise. We focus on that exercise. Every rep, breathe in the eccentric, breathe out the concentric, and we're going to rest 45 seconds to 1 minute between sets. So we're going to purely concentrate, say, in a straight set of hypertrophy, 8 to 10 reps, and we're going to rest, and we're going to do maybe 3 or 4 sets of that. All right? So that is hypertrophy straight sets. We can combine this with HIIT training. So if we were using straight sets, what would that program look like? Well, we did a 3-day program, right? So what I showed you for fat loss, so lose fat and the tone up at the end of Practical 2, it was this. Monday, hypertrophy and HIIT. Tuesday, mobility. Wednesday, hypertrophy and HIIT. Thursday, mobility. Friday, hypertrophy and HIIT. And then Saturday and Sunday will be rest and rest. Okay? So complete rest. Do whatever you want. The mobility might be 15, 20 minutes of yoga or something like that. And you can switch that to the weekend whenever you want. Okay? So, we're going to do 3 days of training for this. Now, very, very simply, okay, do you remember how many exercises we should be doing for hypertrophy per, say, muscle group? So let's say we're doing legs, we're doing push and pull. Right? So let's say that's 3 muscle groups per se. All right? In hypertrophy, how many sets per muscle group should we be doing, guys? Do you remember? I did it in that Practical 2. If you don't remember, go back to that Practical 2 after this, have a look at it. 3, 4, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, very good, guys. Very good. About 4 sets. About 4 sets in hypertrophy. So let's say we're programming the hypertrophy and HIIT. Okay, that's one workout. So we're going to program that in the gym. So what way will we approach it? So the first thing we're going to do is a warm-up, okay? Now we can do a nice general easy warm-up to activate the muscles, to get the heart rate up a little bit and to get movement everywhere. So we can do something like a 200-meter row on the rowing machine, 10 squats, 10 push-ups. We do 3 rounds of that, a nice easy pace. And that will mobilize every joint. That will get all the muscles activated. That will get the heart and lungs working. And then once we do maybe three rounds at a nice steady pace, then we can just cool down for, say, a minute or 2 and then get straight into our training. All right? So on a hypertrophy day, we'll generally do a nice 3 or 4 round warm-up that will cover everything. All right? Now, we can follow a specific warm-up routine, and I will go through that at the end of this semester, but that's a really good way of doing it. Something that activates everything. Heart, lungs, muscles, and all your muscle groups and all your joints. And those 3 exercises do that. Then we're going to program our hypertrophy strength session in straight sets. So we're doing legs. So if we're doing legs, how many exercises are we going to do? We're going to do 4 exercises. We're going to do 4 exercises for legs, and we're going to do 4 sets of each exercise. So the first thing we're going to do is do squats for 4 sets of 10. So we're going to do 10 reps of squats, then we're going to rest for 45 seconds and 1 minute, another 10, rest 45, another 10, rest 45, another 10, and we're finished. All right? So that's our first exercise. We've done 4 sets of 10 in straight set format. Okay? So we take our time, make sure that first 1 or 2 sets we're really getting the right weight, we're really feeling comfortable, and those second 2 sets we should be really going for them. Really going for them. Yeah? Alright, perfect. Then we might move on to a leg press. We do 4 sets of leg press. Again, 10 reps. So set 1, rest, set 2, rest, set 3, rest, and set 4, rest. Okay, so taking our time. So this might take us, set 1 on the squats, set up the reps, the rest, you're talking about probably about 5 or 6 minutes. All right? 5 or 6 minutes. All right? So, about 8 minutes, sorry. About 8 minutes. It'll take you a minute to set up, to do your reps. It'll take you a minute to rest. You're doing 4. So we're up to about 16 minutes now into the workout. All right? So we've got 2 exercises. Okay? So then we got Bulgarian split squat. So let's say we do 4 sets of 10 reps on each leg. And then we got leg curl, get the hamstrings and the glutes as well for 10. So each one of these sections, when we do separately, you're going to take about 8 minutes. So squats for 4 sets. So it'll take a minute to do the 10 reps, a minute rest, and we're doing that 4 times. That's 8. So then we're doing leg press, that's 16. Then we're doing 24, then we're up to 32 minutes. All right? So we've done a warm-up, might take 5 minutes. Then we do 32 minutes, that's 37 minutes of a workout. Now we can add a little bit of HIIT training, 10 to 12 minutes. So it's 47 minutes or so on. And cool down and stretch for 10 minutes. Yeah? So maybe close to the hour mark, 3 times a week. Now, what are we actually getting there? What are we getting there? Well, let's go back on this. Okay? So we're warming up. And then we're getting our muscular strength there. So squats, leg press, Bulgarian split squats, and leg curl. We're working our muscular hypertrophy there. We're working our muscular hypertrophy. That component of fitness is our muscular hypertrophy or our hypertrophy. Then we're working our high intensive interval training for 12 minutes. So now we're getting HIIT, high intensive interval training. That's another component of fitness. Then we're getting our cool down and stretch. So that's our flexibility and mobility. So that is another component of fitness. So these are our health related component of fitness all in one workout. We don't have to separate them out. Some people look at all those components of fitness and going, oh, well, I have to do this and this and this and this. I have to all do them separately 3 to 5 times per week. No, we'd include them all into one workout. It's just how we do it. So generally, if we're doing hypertrophy, it's always going to be warm-up, muscular hypertrophy, and then into HIIT and flexibility at the end. Day 2 is going to be similar, but we're going to do push exercises. So same warm-up. This is Wednesday now. So bench press, 4 sets, shoulder press, dips, and tricep extensions. So again, we're getting our chest, we're getting our shoulders, we're getting the back of our arms, all in that workout. And again, we're going to spend 8 minutes on our bench press, 10 reps, rest, 10 reps, rest, 10 reps, rest, 10 reps, rest. Then we're going to do our shoulder press. Then we're going to do our dips. And then we're going to do our tricep extension. And then what do we have there? We have our muscular hypertrophy. Then we're going to rest for maybe a couple of minutes. Then we'll move into our high intensity interval training for 10 or 12 minutes. That's our second component of fitness. And then we'll move into our cool down and stretch. That's our third component of fitness. So now we're getting different muscle groups with the same muscular hypertrophy component of fitness. So now we're building shape in our upper body. So the legs we're building shape in day 1. Day 2 we're building shape in our chest and our shoulders and our upper. And day 3 we might do a pull day where we're doing all the back exercises. So pull up or lat pull down, 8 minutes, 4 sets of 10. Single arm row, 4 sets of 10. Again, 8 to 10 minutes because they're one each arm. Seated row, 4 by 10. Again, 8 minutes. Bicep curl, 10 minutes. And then into our HIIT and into our flexibility. So muscular hypertrophy, HIIT, and flexibility mobility. All right? So there we worked those components of fitness. So if I go back to, I was on the slide. But if we think about that, we had 4 options when we're looking to lose fat and tone up. Our muscular hypertrophy, our high intensity interval training, our cardiovascular endurance, and our flexibility. And we need to work our flexibility and we need to work our muscular hypertrophy. So really the choice there was between cardiovascular endurance and HIIT. What do we combine in there? Quicker to do the HIIT, so we put that into the program. So that's what a straight set format, 3-day per week, hypertrophy, HIIT, and flexibility components of fitness training program would look like if we're looking to lose fat and tone up. So the hypertrophy is helping us build and shape muscle, so create a pleasing look. The HIIT is helping us lose fat, and the cool down stretch is helping us maintain good mobility. So guys, you understand that before we go on? So it's understanding our components of fitness. So we're going to shape our body, muscular hypertrophy. We've went through this in the last practical. If you don't understand it, go back to it, yeah? Okay, a lot of people say, making it clearer now I understand. And some people because some people are emailing me like, I do this every day, is this good? You shouldn't be doing the same workout every day unless it's a circuit format. I'm going to go through that now. And even that's not every day. I might do it 3 or 4 times a week. Now, let's talk about fat loss and toning up. Can we get the same result with a circuit? So what was the circuit format last time? The circuit format last time was we can do a mixture of different exercises. So in this example, I was doing 5 clean and press. So this was 5 each arm into burpees into running. So I was doing essentially muscular strength. I was doing cardiovascular endurance, high intensive interval training, and I was doing aerobic exercise. So I was doing HIIT and ATP PC. Okay? So that's what I was doing. Alright? So how do we do that to lose fat and tone up? Well, let's say we wanted to mix a circuit like we were doing the other day, but we're going to do it in hypertrophy form. A circuit in hypertrophy form, and then we're going to do some cardiovascular endurance. Alright? So we're going to do run a couple of times a week. Alright? A couple of times a week. Now the circuit is going to help us also with our cardiovascular endurance, and it's a form of HIIT training. So for a beginner, I know the guideline for muscular hypertrophy is maybe 3 to 5 times, but for a complete beginner, we'll even get away with 2. We're even going to get good results from 2. So what would a circuit look like, guys? What would a circuit look like if we were to program a circuit with hypertrophy, do that a couple of times a week, but then also do some cardiovascular endurance there? Alright? Well, here's what it would look like. Warm-up. What are we going to do in the warm-up of a circuit? Well, what we actually want to do is practice the exercises that we're going to do in the circuit. Okay? So what we're going to do is maybe if we're doing a squat and a pull-up and a bench press and a shoulder press, we're actually just going to practice those exercises for maybe 1 set each for 2 or 3 rounds. So 1 to 2 sets, yeah? So again, we might do a few squats, then on to bench press, then on to shoulder press, then on to a pull-up or something like that. Alright? Take our time, practice the exercises. It might take 10 minutes doing that. Just activate the muscles that you're going to activate in the circuit. Okay? Then we're going to get into the circuit. Then we're just going to get straight into the circuit, guys. We're going to get straight into the circuit. So the circuit might be complete 6 rounds of, say, 4 exercises back to back, resting 1 to 2 minutes between rounds. Alright? So that's a circuit. Alright? So we looked at that circuit format. 3 or 4 or 5 exercises in a row, resting in between. Alright? And we went through that in the last lesson. How do we do that properly? How do we actually do a circuit properly in between the exercises? So again, you're not sure, go back to that. So how do we program a circuit? Let's say we program the full body circuit for a beginner. You don't have time to spend an hour in the gym. You want to start getting good at maybe the main exercises like squat, like shoulder press, like bench press, like pull up, like something like that. And you also want to do a little bit of cardiovascular endurance. So we're working on muscular hypertrophy, we're working on muscular endurance, and we're trying to work towards those results starting off. So let's say our circuit is something like 10 squats, 10 bench press, 10 pull up or lat pull down, and 10 shoulder press. So we don't have time to do an hour in the gym. We might have time to do 30 minutes in the gym. This is perfect. Alright? Perfect for a beginner. Now, you're going to do 6 rounds of this. Alright? So you're going to take your time transitioning from exercise to exercise. And you're going to take 1 to 2 minutes rest after each round. 1 if possible. If you're still, the heart rate's flying up through the roof, then 2 minutes. Alright? And you're going to do 6 rounds. And you can try and complete the 6 rounds. The squat, the bench press, the pull-up, the shoulder press should all be challenging, even though they're in circuit. So pick a weight that's challenging. We talked about the last lesson. Those last 3 reps, 8, 9, 10, they got to be challenging. Okay? Just because it's circuit format doesn't mean we don't make it challenging. Alright? And then we're going to cool down and stretch. Now guys, if we do a circuit for 6 rounds with 4 strength exercises and a cool down stretch at the end, how many components of fitness are we working there? How many components of fitness are we working there? What do you think? Because that's going to take us about 30 minutes probably. It's probably going to take us about 30 minutes to do. With the warm up, with the circuit, with the cool down and stretch. HIIT training, very good. Flexibility, very good. HIIT, yeah, exactly. We're actually working them all. We're actually working. The only thing we're not working there is muscular strength, really. I mean, this is going to help our muscular endurance. Our HIIT training, our circuit format is going to be tipping between cardiovascular endurance and HIIT training. You know, because your heart rate is going to be up and down. So we're actually kind of working both cardiovascular endurance and HIIT. We're definitely working muscular hypertrophy because it's our 10 rep range. So it's our 10 rep range, 4 exercises back to back in that circuit format, and we're going to do it twice. So we're going to do it on Monday, we're going to do it on Thursday. And then at the end of it, we're cooling down on a stretch. So to get the results we want, we just have to make sure we're working the components of fitness in the recommended ranges or close to the recommended frequency. So frequency, how often, intensity, time, and type. Now I know technically we're only getting 2 times there with our muscular hypertrophy. Okay? But if this is a complete beginner, that's 4 days of training, 2 circuits and 2 runs. Alright? So we might eventually introduce a 3rd day of a circuit. Or we might split it a bit differently. But that would be a great way of getting someone started off. Okay? Because even though the recommendation is 3 to 5 for muscular hypertrophy, you will still get great results with 2 days a week muscular hypertrophy in a circuit format, or even in a strength format, in a straight set format, than if you're doing none. So many people are looking to lose fat and tone up and they're doing no muscular hypertrophy. So even if you add 2 days starting off and then we can add another day down the line. So do you understand that, guys? Do we understand that, yeah? Okay. We're starting to get it a little bit. I want to go back to those components of fitness now. So I want to go back to, I'm going to fly through these slides and back to our components of fitness so we understand exactly what we're training for. Okay? Where are they? There we go. So guys, I'm going to open up to a few questions. That's pretty much the end of the lesson. I'm going to open up to a few questions. Practical lessons are, as I said, a bit shorter, guys, with new EQF, around 45 minutes. So we'll do some questions and then I'm going to leave you to, guys, so you can mess around with your programming for this week. And try them out. Try programming some of your components of fitness there with your fat loss and tone up session. Try it out. How do we know which components of fitness for which result? Peter, we did cover this in Practical 2. So we did cover this in Practical 2. I will go over them again. Okay. So what's our cardiovascular endurance for? To improve our heart and lungs capacity to work. Yeah? To improve our fitness level, to improve our energy. What's our high intensive interval training? Our high intensive interval training is to improve work periods at higher heart rates, and also it's optimal for fat loss. What's our muscular strength for? Maximum effort lifting, 1 to 5 reps. We're not really going to use this unless we're we're training for a specific sport, or we're a powerlifter or weightlifter. Muscular hypertrophy, what's that used for, guys? Exactly, shaping the body, the most effective way of shaping, toning up areas. The word toning up has been used for 50 years in the industry and people still don't understand it. They're afraid to link it to muscular hypertrophy. It's building your body in the places you want to build shape. Okay, it's bodybuilding. Every time you think of bodybuilding, you think about giant bodybuilders, but bodybuilding is simply building muscle in areas you want to shape better. Muscular endurance, it's not something we'll use massively again unless the sport's orientated, 12 to 15 reps. Not as optimal for shaping the body, we're not going to gain as much muscle. Very good for maintaining, long term. And then flexibility, guys. Obviously flexibility, mobility, something we need vital. We vitally need it. Yeah? Can I program muscular strength in a circuit? Yes, but when you're programming muscular strength, it must be the first exercise of the circuit because you're using your ATP PC energy system. We're going to go over the energy systems in the next lesson and essentially cover specifically really why we would train certain energy systems in what way we can do it. But I wanted to get stuck into the most commonly asked question. Lose fat, tone up. How do we program for it? 2 examples. And again, there's 500 ways we can do it, guys, but they're the 2 probably best for beginners. But yeah, muscular strength. Yeah, if you want to do a heavy deadlift, a heavy squat is the first exercise. Then you can do a hypertrophy exercise. Then you can do, say, a cardiovascular endurance exercise. And then you can, or aerobic exercise, and then you can run that in a circuit. Yeah? Okay, guys, I'm going to wrap it up there. Just trying to keep the times to what they should be for the new EQF. If you do have any questions, please feel free to email me, as usual, jonathan.ledden@showacademy.com. I will answer your questions, but as I said, guys, we're only scratching the surface of programming here. So we've got another week to go on programming. We're going to cover a lot when it comes to energy systems, when it comes to how to program components of fitness, health-related components of fitness, and how to properly get these results, guys. Hope you enjoyed that lesson. Hope it's making more sense for you. Try it out. Play around with it. Test out some workouts. And as I always say, aim to feel 1% better every day and enjoy the process. Talk to you guys soon.